Who's going to be the next leader in Iran? Is it going to be Prince Reza Pahlavi, or is President Trump going to be making a deal with the Islamic Republic, and somebody within the Islamic Republic is going to be approved by President Trump as the next leader? Or is it going to be that President Trump gives up on putting pressure on the Islamic Republic and Mojtaba Khamenei is going to continue to be the third supreme leader of the Islamic Republic? I'll tell you everything that you need to consider to be able to analyze this, and also explain why it's very important right now that we don't lose focus. So these are the knowns. The knowns are that the Iranian people want Prince Reza Pahlavi to be the leader of the revolution and the transitional government. We also know that after the killing of Ali Khamenei, picking Mojtaba Khamenei as the next supreme leader is a signal from the IRGC that they're not bending the knee and they're going to continue to resist. Another known is that President Trump has made it very clear that Mojtaba Khamenei is not an acceptable option, and the military operations will continue until full surrender of the Islamic Republic. Another known is that Israel wants full regime change, and they have never been closer to achieving that, and losing this opportunity would be the greatest loss for Israel's national security. Giving the Islamic Republic the opportunity to rebuild, and not only rebuild, but become a lot more radical and extreme and more determined to become nuclear, with much higher confidence, seeing that the military forces in the world weren't able to topple them. Another known is that if the Islamic Republic wanted to bend the knee to President Trump, they would have gone with a different supreme leader like Hassan Rouhani or Hassan Khomeini or Mohammad Khatami, with Hassan Rouhani being the key figure here. Another known is that given that we're not hearing much from people like Hassan Rouhani right now, shows that the so-called reformers have been pushed aside, and even without Ali Khamenei there, they don't have that much of an influence right now, which shows that Ali Khamenei was not the main obstacle in the path of the reformers, the so-called reformers, being able to gain control, but it's the entire system right now. Another thing that is now a lot more obvious to even non-Iranians is that the anti-Americanism, anti-Western, anti-Israeli axis of resistance, anti-imperialist, Shia, pan-Islamist, imperialist mindset is not based on specific individuals within the Islamic Republic. It's in the DNA of the entire system. And with the removal of Khamenei, not only that hasn't gone away, but instead it's expressing itself a lot more aggressively. It's not that these people do not care for survival. It's that this system can't do anything else. And there is no specific individuals that you could look for to replace to change that. It's like expecting to be able to use your lawnmower to wash your car because you have changed the person operating it. The only way that you could get a different outcome is by completely replacing the system, not specific individuals. So let's look at which one of these scenarios could happen. So scenario number one is, let's see what are the likelihood of each one of them. President Trump giving up on total surrender and accepting Mojtaba Khamenei as the next supreme leader. What are the chances of that happening? That would be an obvious defeat of the military operations. Nobody would be able to deny that this is a defeat. Nobody would seriously be able to claim that the military operations were successful if the clear conditions for success communicated by President Trump which is total surrender, and a leadership approved by President Trump is in place in Iran, which is not Mojtaba Khamenei, and total surrender, and as he clearly pointed out, not Mojtaba Khamenei. And he also communicated that there's only two options for surrender: either somebody who is now the leader within the Islamic Republic communicates full surrender, or there's nobody left to do the surrendering. So the idea of just accepting Mojtaba Khamenei as the next supreme leader and trying to sell this as a win seems unlikely, given that nobody would buy that as a win. And that would be a total disaster for President Trump's legacy and the Republican Party, the MAGA movement, and anybody who supported President Trump in this military operation. So that seems unlikely for President Trump to just accept to go with that option. Now let's look at option number two. Somehow we get rid of Mojtaba Khamenei. He dies they target him and they kill him. And the Islamic Republic picks a leader that is approved by President Trump, that bends the knee, that accepts the terms of surrender, and President Trump claims victory, and that's where it all ends. So a new supreme leader or another form of a head of state approved by President Trump and accepting the terms of surrender when it comes to enrichment of uranium, range of missiles, support for terrorist proxies, and not killing the Iranian people anymore when they come to protest. So let's look at what are the chances of this option. Let's look at the chances of it happening at all, and even if it does happen, the consequences of it happening. It's really hard to imagine with the IRGC, which is now basically the same as the Islamic Republic. Before we talked about the Islamic Republic, IRGC was part of the Islamic Republic. But now it's really hard to see anything Islamic Republic left that is not IRGC. By killing Ali Khamenei, I think the entirety of the Islamic Republic is pretty much IRGC right now. And that's why Mojtaba Khamenei became the supreme leader, because that's the supreme leader that they wanted. And the council of experts were irrelevant. Mojtaba Khamenei was picked by IRGC. So given what we know about the nature of IRGC, and given that United States, given that President Trump is responsible for Ali Khamenei's death, the idea of them accepting a leader approved by President Trump is unimaginable for anybody who understands how the Islamic Republic and basically the IRGC works. And it's hard to communicate that to somebody who hasn't been following Iranian politics for the past couple of years, but if you have been involved, it's just unimaginable. And if I would try to communicate that, I would say that their entire legitimacy will be broken to the point that they will lose their entire base of support. They already have very minimum support within Iran, and they would lose more than half of that if they did such a thing. To prove that to you in a way that is observable, there is a reason why the Islamic Republic constantly has to do propaganda to its followers and constantly pretend that they're winning against Israel, against the United States. All the ridiculous claims that they make when it comes to sinking the USS Abraham Lincoln, shooting down F-35s, these might look ridiculous to us, but they are actually very strategic because they have followers who believe these. And they have lost many of them I have watched for many years losing all their supporters, and based on their understanding, this is the only way that they could be toppled. I consume their content. I'm in their Telegram channels. I'm watching their YouTube videos. I'm listening to their arguments and their infighting, all of that. And from the perspective of the Islamic Republic, it's not US and Israeli military operations that will topple them. It's not the millions of Iranian people coming into the streets protesting against them. What will topple them is these two things causing their own supporters to abandon them in two different ways. Their followers who will abandon them because they are becoming more sympathetic to the rest of the people. They're getting closer to them against the Islamic Republic. But also, this is what the Islamic Republic is afraid of. The ones who are actually more radical, more Islamic, they are losing, the ones that lose hope in the Islamic Republic because the Islamic Republic, and this is true in the past couple of years, can't enforce hijab laws, can't respond strongly enough to Israel, especially after the 12-day war. Over the years, negotiates with the killer of Qasem Soleimani, and now, worse than all of this, surrendering to the killer of Ali Khamenei. So let me tell you, for years I have watched many of the supporters of the Islamic Republic turn against the Islamic Republic simply because the Islamic Republic talks to President Trump, who killed Qasem Soleimani. This is the reason why the Islamic Republic always insists that in the negotiations, no official from the Islamic Republic meets directly with officials of the United States. That there needs to be somebody in the middle. I mean, secretly, they're talking directly sometimes, but they have to make sure that there is no direct meeting with them, because Ali Khamenei promised that there was going to be no negotiation with the killers of Qasem Soleimani. But eventually, when they were forced to do negotiations, he said there will be no direct negotiations. So you could see how much I'm telling you all of this because I want you to see how important maintaining an image is here, because the only thing that could bring them down is that whatever tiny level of support that they have, if that drops, they think that will end them. I say all of this for you to try to appreciate how unimaginable it would be for such a system to bend the knee to President Trump, who just killed Ali Khamenei. And their understanding is that United States and Israelis are together on this, and Israel was actually more directly involved with killing Khamenei, and accepting the terms of surrender of President Trump is bending the knee to both United States and Israel, which makes it even more unimaginable for them to accept such a thing. This is why this option seems unimaginable. But let's imagine it for a second. Let's say for some reason the Islamic Republic does go with this option, and somehow they manage to surrender. And usually what they do when they want to basically retreat or bend the knee, they want to do it in a way that saves face. For example, again, here's another proof that they try to do this. During these recent rounds of negotiations between Witkoff and Arabchi, one thing that was communicated is that the Islamic Republic wanted to be allowed to have some symbolic levels of enrichment of uranium. Symbolic levels of enrichment uranium that serves no purpose other than saving face to their own followers. So you can see how important this is to them. And again, this is not stupid. Like, don't think this is stupid on their behalf. This is actually very smart, because they know their survival depends on their remaining supporters supporting them. So what's actually stupid is their followers, but they themselves understand what's going on here. They think that a lot of times you think that the Islamic Republic is doing something stupid, but if they wanted to survive, they should do A, B, and C. But what you don't realize is that if they did A, B, and C, they will actually be toppled faster by their own followers. That's how you can make sense of a lot of the things that the Islamic Republic actually does. So imagine if we actually go with this second option and they find a way to basically submit and accept surrender. If they do that, they probably want to come up with a with a different narrative about what actually happened to their own followers. And again, every year this is getting more and more difficult for the Islamic Republic to convince some of their followers, or only the dumbest of their followers continue to believe this. But every day they lose some more of them. This happens, and President Trump is satisfied, and he comes and tells the American people that we won. Look what happened. We got a leader. He surrendered, and this is it. This is good. So, for example, we saw when Pezeshkian, the president of the Islamic Republic, recently just came out and asked forgiveness from the neighboring countries for attacking them. President Trump quickly jumped on that to show that there's some sort of surrender happening here. And President Pezeshkian was saying that when that happened, as the main person of the Council of the Supreme Leadership. The Council of Supreme Leader, which has 3 people in it, and the president is the main person in it, is a temporary council that acts as the Supreme Leader until they pick the Supreme Leader. So while that was going on, President Pezeshkian came out and said that they will not be attacking the countries in the region anymore. And he was speaking on behalf of that council. So he was basically speaking as legally as what is supposed to be the supreme leader temporarily. And as soon as he said that, the IRGC immediately started attacking neighboring countries, completely dismissing what Pezeshkian said. And another member of the council, which is Ejei, basically completely shut that down and came out and said that, yeah, we're going to continue to attack the countries in the region. And not only that, there are many hardliners that started attacking Pezeshkian for making that statement. And he eventually had to come and take that back, which shows that how irrelevant that council was, by the way. This also shows, we're seeing how irrelevant the Council of the Supreme Leadership is. We're seeing how irrelevant the Council of Experts have been. Everything is just IRGC. It's IRGC. All decisions are being made by the IRGC. Even Mojtaba Khamenei is irrelevant right now, and everything is being made, all decisions are being made by IRGC. Imagine that this happened. We get like a supreme leader that satisfies Trump, but in a way that it satisfies the followers of some of the followers of the Islamic Republic that we didn't actually surrender. So they need to come up with something that looks like a surrender to President Trump, but not like a surrender to their own followers. That's what they have to come up with. If that happens, many segments of the Islamic Republic will not be accepting that. And the only thing that used to be there to stop the infighting when there are these disagreements and try to get them all on the same page was Ali Khamenei. And he's not there anymore. So given that the IRGC has signaled by picking Mojtaba Khamenei as the supreme leader, has signaled that they're going to go for max resistance. Even if we get a situation where there are segments of the Islamic Republic that wants to pick a leader to submit to President Trump, if there are other segments of the Islamic Republic that do not agree with that, there is no Ali Khamenei to basically now come out and say what the final decision is. The infighting will be higher than ever. And the mere acceptance of the term of President Trump and the humiliation that comes with that will turn so many of the hardliners against the Islamic Republic. This is so different from how the Islamic Republic operates that if such a thing was even accepted by whatever entity is doing the accepting, is not the Islamic Republic anymore. We're dealing with something that is not the Islamic Republic anymore. I don't know what to call it, but it's something new. What I'm trying to suggest here is that this will not last. This would be a temporary leader for what we could refer to as the corpse of the Islamic Republic that will not be able to last. All of its abilities will be a fraction of what it used to be, especially given the infighting. And the infighting will cause a lot of defections and people trying to save their own lives. The most important part to us is their reduced ability in suppressing crowds of Iranian people once they come back into the streets. That's what we need to be looking at. So if option number 2 happens, this is basically the surrender phase before the transition phase with the leadership of Prince Reza Pahlavi. This is why option number 3 with Prince Reza Pahlavi as the leader of the transitional period is the most likely given these information. It's because it's the only option with stability. Even if we go with those options, we're not going to be there for that long. At the end of the day, if you leave Islamic Republic as it is right now, you have weakened them, but you have also radicalized them even more, if you could believe that. The only option is to completely get rid of it right now. You have made it so much weaker, but also a lot more aggressive, given the level of humiliation that it has gone through. The aggression has a point. It's not just craziness. The aggression is to make up for the level of humiliation it had to go through, because it has to prove to its followers that it's capable of causing damage. So if it's more aggressive and weaker, both of those are the reason that you have to get rid of it. If you just leave it as it is right now, it will come and bite you and make the case for why you have to actually come and either choose option number 2 or option number 3. So, meaning that if you want to pretend that there's a win here and then let it go, you have to come back and either get a full surrender or basically do complete regime change. So option number 2 or 3. Option number 2 is not stable. It will eventually collapse in on itself. And again, it's really hard to imagine the IRGC that is this radical now and this angry and this aggressive and in this much need of proving to his followers that its Islamic ideology is still in place and its anti-Western, anti-Zionist, pan-Islamist agenda it exists and stronger than ever. It requires all of that messaging, and it needs to provide something to be able to sell that. So given that state of the IRGC, or given that state that the Islamic Republic is in, accepting, for example, a reformist moderate, so-called reformist moderate leader, head of state for the Islamic Republic would be the opposite of all of that. It would not be tolerated. It would not be tolerated by the remaining supporters of the Islamic Republic. That is, as creative as they are when it comes to trying to fool their followers, there are some things that if they do, that would be a step too far. Like, they're not able to sell everything. They need something that could be visibly, that you could see with your own eyes, that you could point to as a win. So a lot of people think that their followers are so far gone that whatever the Islamic Republic says they will believe, but it has its limits. Like after Ali Khamenei was killed, we saw from the streets supporters of the Islamic Republic crying, asking the Islamic Republic, or like, what else does it take for you guys to do something? So a lot of the followers of the Islamic Republic are frustrated because they believe the Islamic Republic lies, that they're capable of hitting the Zionists and the Americans, and they believe the Islamic Republic lies, that they are able to actually cause a lot of harm to Israel and the United States. And the reason why they haven't done so is because they were showing strategic patience, or some of them actually believe the lies that, oh yeah, we have actually destroyed Tel Aviv or Haifa, and some of them actually believe those lies, right? But there are many of them who are not convinced by any of this, and they're frustrated for why are we being patient? Like, why are we not actually responding strongly enough? I mean, they could see that Khamenei is dead and Netanyahu and President Trump are alive. As dumb as many of these people are, many of them are not actually that dumb. They could see that this is not a win. And that's what the Islamic Republic is afraid of, that humiliation without a response that is their kryptonite. This is why many Iranian people have very strategically been humiliating the Islamic Republic as much as they can, because that is the Islamic Republic's weakness. So that's why it's so hard for the IRGC to pick a moderate reformist leader and surrender to President Trump. That's why a lot of you have to look at Prince Reza Pahlavi as a leader of the transitional government option a lot more seriously. Because none of these other options is going to produce the stable results that will put an end to all of this chaos. Let me know what you think. My name is Armin Navabi. I'll try to make videos like this every day. I'm Israel Chai, Javid Shah.